The 6 o'clock news starts right now.
A frantic and deadly scene this afternoon on a busy West Side street. A routine traffic stop ending in gunfire and a San Antonio police officer shooting and killing the driver.
A second person is also dead, and that police officer who fired the fatal shot, according to Police Chief William McManus, was shot in the hand.
This all taking place in the 2300 block of Penn Road. That's near Highway 90 on the city's west side. Tiffany Huertas has been following this story all day.
And Tiffany, kind of walk us through what happened today.
A lot of moving parts. Stephen EC's Chief McManus says the officer who conducted the traffic stop is a 5-year veteran of the department. At this time, his condition is unknown, but take a look at the video from earlier today. The officer conducted the traffic stop on a pickup. 3 people were inside the vehicle. It happened in the 2300 block of Penn Road. McManus says the officer appeared to have a casual conversation with the driver for a few minutes until the driver allegedly pulled a gun and fired at the officer, striking him once in the hand and once on his radio.
The officer was very, very lucky to be alive at that close range, having been shot in the hand and not somewhere else more vital.
McManus says the officer opened fire as he retreated backwards, striking and killing the driver and the passenger, both men believed to be in their 20s. McManus says the third passenger, a woman, was shot in the torso and was taken to the hospital. Her condition is also unknown. Chief McManus did not say what the reason for the traffic stop was. What we do know is that Cable Elementary School was placed on lockdown earlier today as a precaution, but everyone is okay. Reporting from the West Side, Tiffany Huertas, KSAT 12 News.
Thank you, Tiffany. And we want to show you this video shot by a witness just feet away from that fatal shooting, which again happened earlier in the day today. The filming began after the shots stopped. You can see SAPD officers walking up to the suspect's vehicle with their guns drawn. Certainly a frightening situation for people in that area, which is filled with businesses like a bakery, car shops, and even a restaurant. Patty Santos talked to a man who says he also witnessed what happened. Patty?
Yeah, that man that I talked to was about a city block away. He said he was actually commenting on there being another traffic stop in this very busy 4-way stop where people always get pulled over. But he says he quickly realized that this was a very different scene when he noticed the driver of the vehicle pull out a gun and start shooting at the officer. He says he saw the officer run to the back of his police unit for cover and start shooting towards that truck, but no fire was returned. He says he heard about 8 shots fired by the officer.
The officer was covered in blood. Another officer took him to the hospital, but it was a suspect that fired at him first.
And again, we know that that officer is doing okay tonight. Coming up tonight on the Night Beat, you're going to hear from the witness who shot the video that you just showed, ECs, and she was standing right here as the scene played out just a few feet away. Back to you.
Thank you, Patty. We're continuing our coverage of the airport shooting where only the suspect was shot and killed. Today, we're learning he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The Bexar County Medical Examiner's Office has not identified that suspect yet, but we do know the name of the Park police officer who Police Chief William McManus hailed as a hero for saving a lot of lives. That officer identified as John Maines, an 11-year veteran. Officer Maines working overnight for the Park Police when the suspect drove in the wrong direction into the terminal at Terminal B. The suspect eventually got out of the vehicle and just started firing. Officer Maines returned fire. He actually hit the suspect 2 times. That suspect was later pronounced dead at the hospital.
New at 6, we now have the name of the second victim from a motel shooting on Tuesday. The Bexar County Medical Examiner's Office identifying the victim as 33-year-old Dallas Smith. San Antonio police believe a shootout happened at the Budget Suites of America motel off of Fredericksburg Road. When police arrived on scene, they found Smith and another victim, 27-year-old Fernando Cantu, dead on the walkway, both dying from gunshot wounds. A gun was found at the scene, and police have one person of interest in custody.
He was already facing murder charges. Now, Greg Anthony Delgado has been named in a pair of grand jury indictments issued today. Our Paul Venema with a look at the latest charges and the murder case.
Just over a year ago, police swarmed this Southside neighborhood. What first appeared to be a traffic accident would soon become a murder scene. 35-year-old Luis Guerrero apparently lost control of his pickup after he was shot in the chest and abdomen. Neighbors told police they dashed outside and saw another man near the pickup.
They could see him kind of moving around, but they weren't really paying attention, at which point he said he needed to get out of there.
Which he did. That man was later identified as 34-year-old Greg Anthony Delgado. He fled and was later captured at Ways and Lansing near Highway 90, but not before exchanging gunfire with officers.
He didn't have much of a chance to go anywhere, not with that kind of law enforcement.
Though neither the officers nor Delgado was hit, a police patrol car was hit several times. Today's indictments include allegations of aggravated assault on a public servant stemming from a different case. His criminal background also includes allegations of attempted capital murder and drug possession. Paul Venema, KSAT 12 News.
If you are still in need of a COVID vaccine, then listen up, because there are plenty of opportunities happening this weekend. On your screen coming up here are a list of just a few of those opportunities. The Alamo Dome drive-through clinic is allowing walk-ins from 2 to 5 on Saturday. You have to be 16 years old and up. Northeast ISD also hosting a vaccine event at the Piper Bass Memorial Student Center. That is from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. tomorrow for students 18 years and up. For more details on these events or other vaccine clinics, you can head to our website, ksat.com/vaccine.
To honor the Queen of Tejano music after her murder 26 years ago, then Governor George W. Bush declared today would forever be known as SELENA Day. Today would have been her 50th birthday. Tonight, Jesse Delgado tells us the story of a mother of two whose family will be watching Selena the movie for a very special reason tonight.
Given their striking resemblance, it's no wonder Janice Cruz, there on the right, was Jennifer Lopez's double in the movie Selena.
Me, out of never doing this, to all of a sudden people screaming at me, wanting my autograph, it was obviously, pretty exciting.
Cruz has photos galore of her time on the set in 1996 with actor Edward James Olmos, the movie version of the real Abe Quintanilla, Selena's father. She has one with Selena's mother, and Suzette Quintanilla, Selena's sister. And this one of Cruz holding the young Selena in the movie. There's even one with Cruz's family and the late Lupe Ontiveros, who portrayed Selena's killer. But this audition photo is why Cruz's family urged her to try out for the role of Selena herself.
They just said I look too much like her. You have to do it, You have to go try.
Instead, she got the coveted gig as Jennifer Lopez's stand-in.
I couldn't stop smiling. I was on cloud 9, basically, for as long as I can remember, the whole time.
Now a state employee and the mother of two, her fame as a stand-in, in a sense, for the Queen of Tejano music, is why Cruz's son has sometimes asked,
I need to see your pictures. My friends don't believe me, so they want to see the pictures from the movie.
Having just turned 50, like Selena would have been, Cruz says her answer whenever she's asked, what was it like?
The whole experience with the movie was amazing. It was just amazing.
Jesse Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
So cool. Well, Spurs Give is giving again. Today they organized a mega food distribution at the AT&T Center. Around 2,000 families showed up to have their trunks loaded with boxes of food. The San Antonio Food Bank does these distribution events every Friday, but this time they say it's great to have some extra help from Spurs Give.
We're so connected and people want to help a neighbor, and so Spurs Give, all the volunteers, all the food companies that donated the food, that's really what makes it possible. And end of the day, families are going to go away this weekend with a lot of groceries to last them for a couple of weeks.
Last year, Spurs Give donated $100,000 to help provide meals and support to the food bank.
With a dozen candidates on the ballot, District 2 is by far the most crowded council race that includes an incumbent. KSAT spoke with the candidates to try to figure out why. But we narrowed on-camera interviews to the top 3 fundraisers based on the most recent campaign finance reports. City Hall reporter Garrett Berger tells us what he found out.
Coming off her first term, Councilwoman Jada Andrews Sullivan thinks voters will be looking for the candidate who's going to do the job.
And that's only been the one person that we've seen doing the job taking the heat, riding the bench, doing the work.
But some of her opponents say she hasn't been doing that job. And while they had many reasons for entering the race, several talked about either their or others' concerns about a lack of leadership or communication issues.
Nobody's running because they feel the office has been effective. Nobody's running because they feel they're proud of how they're being represented.
Jalen McKee Rodriguez is a high school math teacher and Andrew Sullivan's former communications coordinator. He left her staff after he says he faced retaliation when he told her about another staff member's treatment toward him as an openly gay man, something Andrew Sullivan denies. Beyond that, McKee Rodriguez is disillusioned with the council member who he supported last election.
There are 12 people in the race because the incumbent hasn't been taking constituent phone calls for over a year.
Another top challenger, businesswoman Christy Villanueva, said she had her own trouble getting a response from Andrew Sullivan's office when she reached out with concerns about short-term rentals and street racing.
And we have had no changes, nothing, no meetings, nothing has been done.
Ultimately, that sparked her own decision to run. For her part, the sitting councilwoman denies communication problems and says residents who needed to get in touch with her office have been able to do so, even through the pandemic.
So for those that say we weren't accessible, our community knows that we were accessible.
Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
Earlier in the week, we hosted a mayoral forum with the top 3 candidates. You can rewatch those interviews right now at KSAT.com.
Take a live look outside now with live cam. What a weird weather day. It was like
Did you get some rain?
Cool,
Did you get rain in your house?
bit.
Yeah, I got some rain.
Mugginess though.
Yeah, very humid out there and really gross through the first part of the day with some mist, drizzle, patchy fog. We've actually got a front on our doorstep right now that's going to move through this evening and usher in some changes for the weekend. So we'll talk about that coming up in just a bit. But first, checking on the aquifer, up 0.3 of a foot to 649.2. And in your pollen count today, kind of an about face with our 2 problem allergens. Mold is high today. Oak is moderate. Mold likely high today because of all the moisture and high humidity that we have had in place late last night through early this morning. High today 74 after a morning low of 64. It was soggy out there at times, but not much rain to show for it. Not even 1/10 of an inch of rain at the airport. Winds starting to pick up now. Looks like that frontal boundary has just snuck past the airport. And again, this sets us up for a cooler weekend. Very windy late tonight through early tomorrow as well. We'll get you ready for the next couple of days and these weather changes coming up in the full forecast. That'll be along in just a bit. Steve.
Thank you, Katie. Coming up next at 6, the UK preparing to say their final goodbyes to Prince Philip. We take a look at the preparations just one day before his funeral.
And next at 6, a new feature is at the Alamo right now, the historical significance of this cannon replica.
A school district says the safety of their students is a top priority, but some students and parents are at their wits' end as cases of bullying have taken their toll. A mother's plea for her son's safety tonight on the Night Beat.
History comes to life at the Alamo with a new exhibit. Today, the Alamo Trust unveiled the 18-pounder Lozoya House exhibit. During the last 18 months, researchers have been working to replicate a full-sized cannon used in the battlefield of the Alamo back in 1836. The original cannon disappeared from San Pedro Springs Park. Researchers visited that park to help make the replica, along with looking at old historical photos.
There was a gentleman in the photograph named Fernando Raven. We found his draft card. We found out his height. And based off those 2 things, we were able to estimate how long the cannon was and how wide.
The exhibit is free to the public and will be open during normal Alamo operating hours from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
Edgewood ISD teachers and staff going the extra mile to welcome students back into the classroom. It's all part of their new initiative project, Reconnect. With students remote learning, they wanted to speak with students one-on-one about how they are ready and prepared to slowly start getting back to normal. Crews went door to door giving their pitch to welcome students back.
And also saying to them, over 90% of our teachers are already vaccinated, so your children are safe when they come to our schools.
And during the visit, they also check in with the parents to see if they need anything and to reassure parents that they have their back.
Turning now to weather, that moisture and that mold has got me today.
You got a little tickle in your throat,
day,
don't you?
Yeah.
Justin, when he posted the pollen count this morning, he was like, if it's not one thing, it's another. If it's not oak, it's mold. But nice to see that oak count drop just a little bit. The moisture helps with that, but EC's right, it does bring that mold count up. Weekend, we've got some changes on the way. You'll want to know about these weather changes, and if you've got some friends and family that don't keep up with the forecast, you may want to shoot them a text or give them a call this evening, because we've got some noticeable changes that will be taking shape even over the next few hours. I want to start off with a storm that has popped up, a non-severe storm that has popped up just to the south of Hallettsville here in Highway 90. This is moving off to the east, so this will be out of Lavaca County here within the next 15-30 minutes or so. Again, this is non-severe, but we've got a good bit of lightning here just south of Hallettsville and Highway 90. This is off to the northeast of Yoakum, moving away from you, Yoakum. There could be some very, very small hail in here, but nothing that's going to do any damage. And the chunk of this storm, the noticeable part of this storm, again, is south of the city of Hallettsville, and that will continue to move east. Elsewhere, things are pretty quiet. We've got a couple of little sprinkles out there, but really no other shower, certainly no thunderstorm activity out there. Frontal boundary, I believe, is sneaking through the city right now, not marked by much rain. It looks like there's a teeny shower there near 83 in Uvalde County that may be marking this frontal boundary as it is dropping south this evening. It will continue to move south past Highway 90 and down into our southern tier of counties this evening along the front, especially if you're east of 35. I can't rule out a spotty shower as this boundary is moving through. As we get closer to midnight, this will be well to our south. We'll be left with a lot of cloud cover. Really not much rain, though, late this evening into the early morning hours of Saturday. What you will notice late this evening and as we get past midnight, winds starting to pick up, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. However, as we get closer to dawn tomorrow morning, mid-morning into early afternoon, I do think we'll see some scattered light rain moving in, maybe a few rumbles of thunder down well to the south of Highway 90. We're going to have some overrunning here, which is basically just some lift in the atmosphere that will help to produce some light scattered rain. And again, a few rumbles of thunder. Best chance to hear a rumble of thunder tomorrow is going to be well to the south of Highway 90. But tomorrow, especially through early afternoon, kind of looks like almost a very fall-like day. It's going to be cloudy, windy, much cooler with this scattered light rain around. As we get into tomorrow afternoon, rain chances will drop out of the forecast, and we could even see some clearing. However, I would paint tomorrow as a mainly gray day, and we'll carry a lot of clouds into Sunday as well. Now let's talk about these winds. They're starting to turn breezy now behind this frontal boundary this evening as we get to 10, 11 p.m., 12 a.m. Breezy winds for everyone, winds 15 to 25 miles per hour late this evening, overnight, and through the first part of the day on Saturday. So once those winds pick up this evening, they're going to stay elevated as we get into early Saturday afternoon. It really won't be until closer to sunset tomorrow that winds really start to ease up. Those were the sustained wind speeds. We could see some gusts up to 30, 35 miles per hour beginning late this evening, continuing overnight and into early afternoon on Saturday. So any loose outdoor patio items, backyard items, you may want to secure them here pretty shortly because winds will be picking up over the next few hours. So a snapshot of your temperatures, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in the 50s to start, a few spots, upper 50s, low 60s, well to the south with those windy conditions, gusty winds in place. As we head into tomorrow afternoon, an unseasonably cool day for everyone. I think we're all going to have a hard time getting out of the 60s tomorrow, maybe a few spots in the low 70s on Sunday. But overall, this weekend is going to be unseasonably cool. If you are a cool weather fan, I would soak it in over the next couple of days because our weekends here probably pretty shortly are going to be much, much hotter.
Oh, yeah. 30 to 35 mile per hour wind gusts.
Yeah.
Like, forget the patio furniture, small dogs.
Yeah.
Make sure make sure you leave them in.
Small people, yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Katie.
Batten down the Chihuahuas. All right, so the Spurs are in action tonight, and they're playing a pretty tough team tonight.
They are playing a pretty tough team, but we don't know if Damian Lillard's going to be playing tonight. I just saw a moment ago that he's questionable. Then I saw that he's out with some sort of hamstring injury, so I haven't been able to confirm that just yet. In the meantime, part of the reason why the Spurs have been struggling is their lack of practice time because their schedule is just too demanding. And Seattle Storm head coach Dan Hughes had his eye on Keanu Williams for quite some time. Coming up. quickly slipping down on the west. The Spurs will continue their brutal schedule tonight when they host the Portland Trail Blazers before leaving for Phoenix to play the Suns tomorrow night. San Antonio has one of the hardest schedules for the second half of the season, along with the Grizzlies as the only two teams without any two-day breaks, along with 11 back-to-backs, and will play more games on the road than home. That doesn't leave much time to practice, which the younger Spurs really need.
For me, I feel for a lot of those guys because, they need it. You need practice. You need to find a rhythm. You need to understand where you need to be out there on the court to understand where your rhythm is going to come from on both ends. Practice, practice definitely make perfect, and not to have that, you can see lapses here and there when we make mistakes.
Spurs will host the Blazers tonight at 7:30. Damian Lillard is out with a hamstring injury. We'll have highlights on the Night Beat. After celebrating with her family and friends last night, Kiana Williams said it's back to work today as she prepares to join the Seattle Storm. The reigning WNBA champions selected Williams 18th overall in the second round of the WNBA draft last night. The Storm are four-time league champions, winning the title in 2 of the last 3 seasons. Kiana recently won a national championship with Stanford. Now, playing with a championship team makes Seattle a great fit for her.
A winning culture, at Stanford, we approach seasons as to win. A lot of teams, they're probably developing or, maybe a few years down the run. At Stanford, we're expected to win. In Seattle, you're expected to win. So, just going from that transition from college to the pro level, I feel like it's the best thing for me.
Kiana's excited to learn from the great Sue Bird and get coached up by Dan Hughes, who's known about Kiana for years thanks to his time in San Antonio with the Stars.
Kiana Williams is just, again, I think she meets a need that this team has as the roster comes together. And I've just been a fan of hers for an awful long time. She grew up in San Antonio. I've known her since she went to high school. And I was just, T and I both were at Stanford for the USA game a year ago, when Kiana was a junior, and we played them, and she played extremely well that night. And I remember walking off the court with Diana Taurasi, and she said to me, she'll go somewhere in the first round, won't she? And I don't think she knew she was a junior and not coming out. But that's the type of performance she had on a floor with a lot of great players.
With the Storm's depth at point guard, Hughes says Kiana will need to play herself onto the roster. She leaves Sunday for Seattle. Now, Dallas selected guard Chelsea Dungy out of Arkansas 5th overall last night. Now, just like Kiana, Dungy played for San Antonio Finest, one of the top AAU basketball programs you can find. She's from Oklahoma, but honed her skills with SA Finest and coach Ray Caldwell. And the Bryce Strong Foundation is asking us to give blood in Bryce's memory on his birthday, April 28th from 12 to 7 p.m. at Judson High School Auxiliary Gym. Registration is required. The info is on the screen. You can also find it on the Bryce Strong Foundation Twitter page. They're also selling Bryce Strong birthday T-shirts to help raise money to continue the fight against adolescent cancer.
And the need for blood in our community is big right now.
Big indeed.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry.
You got it.
All right, a KSAT Q&A is coming up next.
All right, do you want to talk about an impressive title? The Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Trinity University joins us, and we are talking about Professor Dr. Luis Martinez. Doctor, thank you for joining us. I want to talk about a lot of different things with you, but obviously the business climate in San Antonio as it has to do with COVID, and specifically you do a lot with startups at Trinity and entrepreneurship. Is entrepreneurship still happening with the economic hardships that we're seeing with COVID?
Oh, without any question. And I think that something that's really exciting is that San Antonio has always been resilient. San Antonio has always been sort of sustainable with regards to its business climate. And it's always been an incredibly diverse sort of community of startups and small businesses. So the answer to your question is yes. Not only is it happening, but in some ways, startups and small businesses in San Antonio are thriving. I don't mean to diminish the dramatic impacts that have taken place in hospitality and in restaurants and in tourism. I mean, clearly those businesses, the businesses that have been impacted adversely through COVID because of the restrictions that have had to take place, because of distancing, because of what happened in energy and oil and gas, many of those companies have gone through very difficult times, are still going through rough times, but there is light on the horizon. But there's a whole other group of other companies as well who have taken this moment, who've become more resilient, who've actually thrived in this environment, and other folks that are sort of starting businesses and startups right now at this moment that we need to celebrate as part of this community.
And you mentioned
I cannot imagine a scarier time to be starting a business.
Absolutely. You mentioned some of that COVID recovery, but beyond that, what do you foresee as being one of the biggest challenges for startups and entrepreneurs, not only in the months to come, but in the years to come post-COVID?
Well, there's a number of factors actually that are pretty important. I mean, the first is access to capital and the importance of sort of early stage capital. We're fortunate that there have been programs here in the city and in the state, as well as federal programs that are helping ease that. Lift Fund, for example, here in town is a tremendous amount of work in helping ease that sort of access to capital. Another major challenge for many of our startups is making sure that they can be online and be digital. I mean, this aspect of how now with this aspect of COVID, we're interacting and engaging so much sort of digitally is a really critical, important thing that's happening. But companies are making it happen. Entrepreneurs are making it happen. You say, like, I can't imagine a scarier time for, startups to start. There's an old adage that says that the best time to start a company is right now. And the second best time to start a company is tomorrow, right? So we have these entrepreneurs who've got this spirit. Many who've pivoted from COVID might have been doing one aspect of their business. COVID hit and they've pivoted and moved into a different direction and are looking forward to sort of meet what that light of the tunnel looks like once we sort of get through this period.
Really interesting. Yeah.
Are you optimistic about the future? Are you optimistic that the pivoting that we're seeing in some of these companies will pay off down the line?
Without any question, the answer is yes. I am positive and optimistic about startups and small businesses overall. I am positive and optimistic and bullish on San Antonio and Texas. And what's really clear in what we're seeing is quite a bit of activity with regards to companies that are beginning to sort of re-ramp and restart as things are opening up, as more people are getting vaccinated, as we're seeing more people engaging into the community. There's capital that's being infused in part through federal programs, as well as companies that are sort of moving forward. So I'm very optimistic about what the future will bring.
I want to talk really quickly about the workforce. We know that the pandemic drove a lot of people, particularly women, out of the workforce. How can that be fixed? And is this a problem for these potential startups as we move into the future?
We're seeing, women actually globally lead startup formation. So we're seeing a number of women who are leading companies, who are leading startups. This disruption that happened with people sort of losing their jobs, unfortunately, for having these great disruptions. Many of them have been motivated then to go off and start their own businesses. Many have been motivated to go out, in part because of necessity, right? They need to sort of support their families. So we are seeing that. I think some of the factors that could help improve that are great mentoring programs and resources that we have here. For example, in San Antonio, we have the Women's Business Center that's funded through Lift Fund. We've got the great communities that are going around and taking place around the Maestro Center, around Launch SA, around Geekdom, that are working to support women entrepreneurs here in San Antonio.
I want to talk about Trinity in particular, because I read somewhere that there have been as many as 30 successful startups that have been incubated, for lack of a better word, at Trinity University. And I know that there's a virtual competition that's coming up as well. Am I correct in all that?
Yeah, we're really proud at Trinity to have the Louis H. Stumberg Venture Competition. This year will be our 7th year of our venture competition. It's in honor of Louis Stumberg, a prominent San Antonio businessman who brought sort of freeze-dried, frozen TV dinners, Mexican food TV dinners in the 50s and the 60s.
Oh, wow.
And it really honors that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. And so because of that sort of prize, we honor his legacy through this venture competition, where every year we invest in 5 companies, Shark Tank style, provide them $5,000 investment, the opportunity to spend the summer with us working full-time on their ventures, and then those 5 teams then compete for $25,000 as a grand prize. And now we're celebrating our 7th year. Hopefully we'll be launching with the end of this court an additional 5 other companies to bring the grand total up to 36 companies.
So you're venture, right?
So it's Shark Tank. Are you one of the sharks?
Thankfully, I am not.
Okay, all right.
Because they're all my children. I love them all. Right.
Yeah.
So we bring in our alumni, distinguished entrepreneurs from the community and around the country to come in and adjudicate our panels. And that's important because we really believe strongly that we need to be in the position of supporting our students in the dreams that they have. Trinity's always been known as a place where students are doing it for real, whether it's undergraduate research or internships or scholarships. And in entrepreneurship, we launch real for-profits, we launch real nonprofits. And so I don't want to be a judge. My job is to be there as a catalyst, as a coach, as a mentor to help them sort of build the dreams they're looking forward to build.
Well, and good luck to the candidates. Dr. Luis Martinez, thank you so much for your time.
And I wanted to mention people can watch this on Trinity's website, right? If they wanted to watch the actual competition, Shark Tank style?
That's correct. We'll be broadcasting our competition, our seed round for our competition this Monday at 6 p.m. on live.trinity.edu.
Great.
Thank you, Dr. Luis Martinez.
And
Thank you so much.
This guy teaches business classes and chemistry classes, so I'm impressed. We'll have you back on. Dr. Luis, thank you. We'll be right back. Great Britain getting set for the final farewell for Prince Philip. We are learning more about tomorrow's funeral, including how the Queen will arrive.
And we've learned a custom Land Rover will carry Prince Philip's casket. The funeral will also serve as a royal reunion. ABC's Julia McFarlane has more from London.
COVID-19 may have forced big changes to tomorrow's funeral for Prince Philip, but his touch is all over much of the day's details. New updates on the ceremony, scaled down and socially distanced. The guest list for the service at Windsor's St. George's Chapel includes 30 people, the national legal limit for funerals. In normal times, a ceremonial royal funeral would have seen the coffin on a horse-drawn carriage with all the trimmings, as it was here for the funeral of the Queen Mother. But for the Duke, a personal touch, a modified classic British Land Rover that the Duke himself helped to design to carry a coffin, his own, to his final resting place. Another change, all the royals will wear civilian dress. Usually royals with military affiliations would be wearing their uniform. And instead of a grand parade, the Duke's coffin will be taken on a short procession within the castle. Princess Anne and Prince Charles will walk behind, followed by Edward and Andrew. And then in the third row, Princes William and Harry. But they won't be side by side. Their cousin Peter Phillips will be between them.
Now, there is an explanation for that in the sense that they are the 3 grandsons and perhaps it makes sense for them to go in a line. But it is hard not to read into it as a sign that William and Harry, the significant differences between them still very much prevail.
Despite the friction within the family, the royals are projecting unity in support of the Queen. This week, Charles and Camilla visibly moved by the outpouring of sympathy from the public, clear to see in the thousands of floral tributes and messages left for Her Majesty in the wake of her husband's death. The service will take place Saturday at Windsor, where the Queen and Prince Philip spent most of the pandemic and his final days together. Julia McFarlane, ABC News, London.
Outside with live cam, still looks pretty gray out there. We've lost the mist and drizzle that was around through the first part of the day. We've actually got our next cold front moving through as we speak. It's dropping down into southern Bexar County, not marked by much rain, but this will set us up for some changes this weekend. So we're still in the low to mid 70s for now, but winds are starting to gradually increase in speed around 10 to 15 miles per hour, and things will turn gusty late this evening and through early on Saturday. So get ready for a windy, much cooler, and at times a little damp day tomorrow. We'll talk about what you can expect this weekend coming up.
All right, I kind of find this story gross, but here we go. Perhaps you always wanted to try your cat's food.
Goodness, no.
Now you can, for real. Fancy Feast releasing a cookbook for humans inspired by its Petite's single-serve cat entrees. The company's in-house chef created 12 recipes, including chicken and ramen with tomato honey butter sauce and whitefish and asparagus.
Okay, Fancy Feast says the meals are meant to accompany your cat's food. Each human recipe is color-coded, so you know which flavor to pair with your meal. Our producer Alexa says it looks delicious.
Yeah.
She would try it.
A plate for your cat,
Yes.
a plate for you. Katie, I know you love cats. Would you do that?
No, I can't,
Okay,
though.
all right.
I have to bow out. My cat is on prescription canned food, and there's no cookbook to accompany that, so unfortunately, I cannot
That's your
purchase.
excuse.
You've got
to
an
go with that
out.
one.
You've got an out.
Darn.
Yeah, wow. Good.
Bless the people that put that together. That is something. That is
Creative.
something
Yes.
else. Yeah. We've got some changes coming for the upcoming weekend as far as the weather is concerned. I'm going to go ahead and call this long sleeve weather. Humidity will be down a little bit. Highs only in the 60s. Savor this, friends, because before we know it, our weekends will be getting very, very hot. Front moving through as we speak will set us up for a windy night tonight and windy day tomorrow. 40% chance of some scattered rain, mainly through the first part of the day on Saturday. As far as rainfall goes on Sunday, can't rule out a few sprinkles here or there, and we're going to hold on to a lot of clouds both days this weekend. So not the prettiest weekend we've ever had, but nice and unseasonably cool. And like I said before long, it is going to be hot for our weekend weather. Winds right now starting to turn breezy out of the north here behind the frontal boundary that's slowly dropping down to the south. Winds right around 15 miles per hour at Randolph, up to 15 miles per hour in Fredericksburg. So it's not overly windy out there yet, but we are going to see our wind speeds steadily increase through the rest of the evening and into the overnight hours behind this frontal boundary. So look for sustained wind speeds overnight. 15 to 25 miles per hour. Gusts will be even higher than that, up to 30-35 miles per hour. That will begin to set in late this evening into the overnight hours. Temperatures overnight falling down into the 50s, low to mid 50s here in town, with a chance of some isolated light rain starting to kick in as we get closer to dawn. So this evening, as we get past midnight, not so much rain around, but as we get closer to dawn tomorrow, I do think we'll start to see some showers developing. We were hoping for at least a few passing showers along the frontal boundary itself this evening. That hasn't really played out. There were a few rumbles of thunder in some of our easternmost counties. Lavaca County just south of Hallettsville. Little non-severe storm has moved on through. Now that is east of Lavaca County, and Hallettsville just south of town there. All that's really left are a few little sprinkles, and that's also true along Highway 90 headed back toward Gonzales and Seguin, but not much rain to see out there this evening. So over the next several hours through 10-11 p.m. this frontal boundary will continue to drop south as it moves through. Again, I can't rule out a few little spotty showers, especially south and east of San Antonio. By midnight, this will be well to our south. We'll have cloudy skies and gusty winds settling in across the area. After midnight through dawn tomorrow morning, I think we'll start to see some showers developing, maybe even a few non-severe storms well south of San Antonio and Highway 90, down closer to Live Oak, B, Goliad counties through early Saturday morning. So some passing light showers will be possible mainly through the first part of the day on Saturday. As we get into the afternoon, a little bit of clearing possible, but overall tomorrow is going to be a really gray day. And as I mentioned, we'll keep a lot of cloud cover around into Sunday as well. So planning out your Saturday, some changes coming. Winds will turn gusty overnight, and they could gust as high as 30-35 miles per hour essentially through lunchtime, early afternoon tomorrow. So go ahead and get everything secure out on the patio in the backyard tonight, because it will be gusty. And at times tonight, you certainly could hear maybe your shutters or tree limbs rubbing against the side of the house. So if you hear any noise tonight, it's going to be the wind, that's for sure. A much cooler day tomorrow. High temperatures limited to the low to mid 60s. It won't be quite as gloomy on Sunday. I do think we'll get an opportunity to see a little more sun as we finish up the weekend. And it'll be a touch warmer, but still unseasonably cool for this time of year, with a few sprinkles possible as we wrap up the weekend. A stray shower possible Monday, and then we warm back up, upper 70s, low 80s by Tuesday. Another dry frontal boundary moving in late Tuesday into Wednesday will drop our humidity heading into the middle of next week. Rain chances trying to make a rebound late next week. We really still do need some rain. So nice to have kind of bookend rain chances here on the planning forecast.
All right. Thanks so much, Katie.
In case you missed it, it's coming up next.
Good morning and happy Friday. Thank you so much for starting your day with us.
That officers started dispatching themselves to the airport yesterday after the SAPD employee who took this call said she did not know what she was doing. Records show a supervisor instead intervened and was able to correct the issue. The dispatcher was apparently unaware that while assigned to North Patrol, she is also supposed to assist the airport police department when needed.
Chief McManus says the officer, a 5-year veteran with the department, was simply conducting a routine traffic stop this morning.
He approached the vehicle, spoke very casually at the window for, I don't know, maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And then all of a sudden the gun was pulled and he ran backward and returned fire.
Caller heard 10 shots from near the front of the entrance.
In Indianapolis overnight, 8 people shot and killed, several others wounded at a FedEx ground warehouse near the airport. We're told around 100 workers were on duty when the shots rang out. Officials say the gunfire started in the parking lot and continued at the building, adding that the massacre was over in a matter of minutes.
9 meetings in, the city and union are still struggling to find a workable compromise for revamping the appeals system for fired San Antonio police officers.
Just feels like a huge circle here.
The city wants a system in which the police chief's decision for discipline is given deference. The union wants its members to be able to continue to effectively challenge what they think are unfair firings. Accomplishing both goals in a way both sides can live with is appearing like a taller and taller order.
Front moving through this evening will set us up for some changes tonight into tomorrow. Cooler and windy for your Saturday, especially first part of the day. Some scattered rain possible through early afternoon as well. A few sprinkles on Sunday, but still pretty chilly for this time of year. We'll warm back to near 80 by early next week. Guys.
Thank you, Katie, and thanks for watching the 6 o'clock news.
We'll see you back here on the Night Beat at 10.